Good morning. Good to have you here. Here we are. This is our December Shotsuki gathering. We also had Bodhi Day on the 8th, just recently in the past week, that celebrates the enlightenment of the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha. And of course, we have Christmas coming up soon, a traditional Buddhist holiday. And for that reason, I'm told that there will be some Christmas carol singing after the service, for real. So I'm told. I'm told that Ray brought his guitar. Is that true? Is it here? Okay. All right. Excellent. So when I mentioned to my wife that I might be delayed, that I might end up singing some Christmas carols of the Buddhist service, she sort of chuckled at that, and she said, "Oh, what are you doing? Is it like you're doing concho bells, ring them all the way." I thought, or she said, "Are you doing We Three Senseis or something like that?" So then she really got me thinking about this. So I was driving here the whole way, barely paying attention to the road. I was thinking about Christmas carol. I put the Christmas carols on Apple Music and just had it playing, and then I was thinking, so we could do like when Shakyamuni Buddha was conceived, his mother Maya, she had this dream of a white elephant coming down from the heavens and entering her side. So I thought, okay, all right, we can do, I'm dreaming of a white elephant, or something, right? Or that Mariah Carey song, frankly, came on the playlist. I think we've all heard this one, right? All I Want for Christmas, this one. It plays in the shops nonstop. It started playing in October at the Dollarama around the corner from me. So all I want for Christmas is for Mariah Carey to please stop singing at this point. So what I was thinking when that one came on, there's others that could be adopted in some way or adapted. There's last one maybe I'll mention would be there's grandma got run over by a reindeer. We know this one, right? I think we can just keep that one as is because it's about suffering. And she got run over by a reindeer and everybody's unhappy. So that just fits with Buddhist theme about dukkha and dealing with suffering and everything. So we just leave that one. But the others we might modify in some way. And I had the idea of modifying songs and chants on my mind because we have this singing maybe coming up. And also, there's a particular chant that I would like to actually begin my formal talk here by reciting, or we'll see whether maybe I can actually chant it properly here. This is I Gasho to Amida, one that various people may already know. This is a short modern sutra or gatha composed by Reverend Suji, the founder of the Hamilton Temple, the Toronto Temple, the Montreal Temple, all the temples here in the East, right? So he composed this. It's quite popular in some places, such as in Hawaii. It's popular. It's often performed during services there as their sutra. Sometimes we see it in the mainland U.S. as well. Actually, I don't encounter it all that often in Toronto or in Hamilton for some reason. It's not actually in our service book, that brown one there, despite it being in the service books and popular in various parts of the U.S. So nonetheless, people may have heard this one before, and it's a very nice one. So I'm going to see if I can perform this here. So it's not done to the Sambutsuge tune. So I have to, and I've just sung a few Christmas carols. So I have to erase that and reprogram myself to get this in the right key. Let me see if I can do this here unaccompanied. So, Namo Amida Butsu, I recite Amida's name with deep joy and gratitude. I gasho to Amida, trees and grasses and flowers all grow in great compassion. Buddha's light shines throughout the world. I gasho to Amida. Flowers bloom and flowers fall. From the seed sprout new flowers. This is the truth unchanging. I gasho to Amida. Springtime brings the happy birds. Their songs all praise Amida. I join them in Nimbutsu. I gasho to Amida. When I call Amida's name, it's Amida calling me. Buddha's voice and my voice are one. I gasho to Amida. When I'm lonely, I recite Namo Amida Butsu. Then the Buddha takes my hand. I gasho to Amida. Nimbutsu in work and play, every day with Amida, every moment filled with light. I gasho to Amida. Remember the golden chain, kindness to all living things. I will follow this teaching. I gasho to Amida. In the clear, bright morning sun, in the fading light of day, in the darkness of the night, I gasho to Amida. Namo Amida Butsu. I live in great compassion. This great power guides my life. I gasho to Amida. So that's the sutra as composed by Reverend Suji. I quite like it, and thank you for your patience and listening to it here this morning. I really do like that chant, and it's performed, as you might recognize, to the tune of Junidai, which is, in my opinion, the prettiest of our various sutra chants that we perform. Now, in my opening remarks, I made some adjustments to some of our traditional Christmas carols to make them maybe more appropriate, question mark, for a Buddhist venue. And in the version of I Gasho to Amida that I just did, I also made some slight adjustments to Reverend Suji's original writing of it. For example, as I just performed it, I said, Namo Amida Butsu, whereas his original as written says Namu Amida Butsu. That's because since the time in which he wrote it, the Honganji has actually adjusted the proper pronunciation of the Nimbutsu slightly. Why did they make that slight sort of vowel change? In order to make it closer to how people actually speak and pronounce Japanese nowadays, instead of how they spoke it many hundreds of years ago, right? So this is hardly the only time that our chants or our materials have been updated, whether in Japan or in Canada. This is a continuous process because Buddhism is a living tradition. This is not a dead tradition stuck in the past, but is a living tradition that evolves as our lives evolve. Just for example, the golden chain, which is mentioned here in Nai Gasho to Amida, the golden chain has gone through many versions, actually. There's many versions across many different service books if we were to go and look those up. So since Honganji had already demonstrated this principle of updating the chants to be in line with modern approaches, so that they therefore remain fresh and remain relevant, I therefore also made some further adjustments, just minor tweaks to the version I just gave. For example, I adjusted the gendered language of the original. When Reverend Suji wrote I Gasho to Amida back in the day, at that time it was a standard practice to use the male pronoun as the default for anything that wasn't clearly gendered as female. So his original line said things like, I live in his compassion, and his voice and my voice are one. Whereas as I just performed it, I updated it in order to say, I live in great compassion, and Buddha's voice and my voice are one. Now, Amida Buddha is the truth of the Dharma itself. This is part of our Jodo Shinshu teaching as we've received it from Shinran Shonin. And truth has no gender. So making these lines gender neutral is actually in better keeping with the Dharma. And society, meanwhile, also has moved on so that we don't actually use the male pronoun for everything. And that's good because this makes it more inclusive of women, which was a very important part of Shinran and also Rennyo Shonin's approach to Buddhism, was trying to include everyone, and especially specifically to include women into Buddhism, because they had not been equally included by the pre-existing elite approaches, the monastic approaches to Buddhism that came before their time. So I think that this is a good adjustment in keeping with their spirit. And we can note that although Dharmakara, the Bodhisattva who made the 48 vows in order to eventually become Amida Buddha, that Bodhisattva absolutely was a man, right? But he underwent many rebirths, both before he was Dharmakara and after he was Dharmakara. That was just part of the process. In those other lives, he was sometimes a man, sometimes a woman, sometimes non-binary, sometimes trans, all the other sort of wonderful possibilities in life, because what he was doing in his process was learning how to include everyone, to make the Pure Land as inclusive of everyone as possible by going through many different lives, accumulating merit, and learning about many experiences. So therefore, I think it is better to refer to Amida Buddha without gender. And like I said, I think this is more inclusive of women, non-binary people, and so on, right? But I think that's important because the central point of the primal vow is inclusion. Now, going back to the chant that I did specifically, Aigasho to Amida, I want to bring up a point about right mindfulness. Right mindfulness is one of the steps of the Noble Eightfold Path, which of course is the way for Buddhist practice and liberation that Shakyamuni gave to his disciples. Right mindfulness is also that's specifically referenced in the Sambutsuge, which we just performed together, right? So this right mindfulness is a really important part of Buddhism. What is this? What is mindfulness? Well, mindfulness means having awareness, means paying attention, being present, not being distracted, keeping things in mind that are important. So holding things that are important in your mind, an important part of sati, the original word for mindfulness. So we can get tired of people saying to us in our lives, you know, pay attention, which is really what mindfulness is about paying attention. I know that when I was a kid, I heard this so often, pay attention, pay attention. I'm surprised that actually I didn't grow up thinking that my actual name wasn't Jeff Wilson, are you listening to me? Because I heard this from my mom a lot, right? I have to say it's hard to pay attention. I know that I should, but it's something quite hard to do, even after being scolded throughout my childhood and afterwards. It's something that takes practice, right? But if we pay attention to things, often, therefore, we'll have good results from that. On the other hand, when we're distracted, we're ignoring things. And that can be rude in some situations, can even be dangerous in some situations. So I have to admit, a couple of weeks ago, I was walking on campus, and I wasn't, walking along and looking at all the students and looking at the path and looking at the stream as I passed over it between one part of campus and the other. What I was looking at was my phone as I was walking along, and I was not doing like important work or like somehow, furthering the Dharma. So I needed to be like staring into the abyss of my phone. I was playing Pokemon Go. So I'm going along here, walking, playing Pokemon Go, trying to catch my Pokemon and everything. And I just literally, I walked right into the road. There's a crosswalk there, the stop sign. Luckily, even though I wasn't being responsible, the drivers on the road were. So they stopped, and but I took like a step out, and then I went, "Oh, I am in the road." And I put it down, and I crossed the road, and then I went back to play my Pokemon. I have to admit, so this was not very mindful of me at all, and this was potentially a dangerous situation. Luckily, the drivers were more mindful than I was in that moment, right? So when we're present, when we're mindful, we can discover things, we can appreciate things, we can enjoy our lives. So this mindfulness is a very important sort of part of Buddhism. The Buddhist teachings are basically about how to be mindful in ways that help our lives. They help us to avoid trouble, and they help us to be our best. And the chants that we do, these are often about what we should be mindful about, things such as the Buddhist teachings. And chanting helps us to practice right mindfulness. This is one reason why it's a core part of our services every month. Now, if we pay attention to that chant that I just did, I Gasho to Amida, it's offering us many wonderful things to be mindful of. Let's think back to it. The chant talks about things like trees and grasses and flowers, talks about the happy birds, talks about our feelings like deep joy and also loneliness. So Reverend Suji, inspired by the Buddhist teachings, he's telling us through this chant that he wrote to be mindful of these things. In Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, as you all have heard me say many times, the most important thing is gratitude. And it's wonderful to be grateful, right? But we can only be grateful if we're mindful of how fortunate we are. So the chant tells us about how the trees and the grass and the flowers, they all grow in great compassion, and how the light of great compassion shines throughout the world. And this is something that I'm really grateful for. Although I do spend some time lost in Pokemon Go, I do also spend a lot of time thinking about and being grateful about the presence of great compassion in the world. Great compassion embracing me and embracing all people. Something I'm grateful for. In this chant from Reverend Suji, it also tells us, when I call Amida's name, it's Amida calling me. So Amida is calling me. What is Amida saying? Amida Buddha is saying, Jeff Wilson, are you listening to me? Just like my mom used to say, right? Are you listening when you say Namo Amida Butsu? Now, Namo Amida Butsu, this is called the Nimbutsu, as we know. We may hear this Japanese word and we may think, what does that word mean? Nim means mindfulness, literally it's the word for mindfulness. And Butsu, of course, means Buddha. So Namo Amida Butsu is mindfulness of the Buddha. It's awareness of great compassion that embraces the trees and the grasses and the flowers, and embraces you, and it embraces me. This is what the Buddha is asking when Amida says, Jeff Wilson, are you listening to me as you say my name? When we say Namo Amida Butsu, it's the Buddha calling us back to awareness over and over again of how great compassion embraces us and supports us and all living things. When we say Namo Amida Butsu, if we can be mindful of the Buddha's call, then every moment of our lives can be filled with that light. That's what this chant, I Gasho to Amida, this is what it's teaching us. It shows us what right mindfulness is like. So, in summary, I have a miniature noble threefold path here that we can derive from this. Number one, don't play Pokemon Go or you will be run over by a car. Number two, be mindful of the good things in your life. Number three, say the Nimbutsu with mindfulness and gratitude. I think these are a pretty good prescription for everyday Buddhism. And thank you for being mindful as I delivered my talk this morning. That's my Dharma talk for us this morning. If we could just put our hands together and say the Nimbutsu mindfully together. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandas. Namandas. Thank you all very much.